Hello! Welcome to the very last March Mystery Madness video. This is the last day of March, and so this will be my wrap-up. I'm going to talk about the books that I read this month and update you on my bingo card, and I will also show you whether or not I was able to come up with a sentence for the challenge I gave myself at the beginning of the month, which was for every book that I read to go to the 5th chapter, the 5th page of that chapter, the 5th line on that page, and the 5th word on that line. And I kept track of all those words, and then I attempted to make a sentence out of them. So I will why don't I show that to you right now? Alright, it's time to let you see what I was able to come up with the words from my books. I went to the 5th chapter, the 5th page in that chapter, and then the 5th line and the 5th word, and I would write them all down, and I've been keeping them on post-it notes to see if I could make a sentence. These are the leftover words that I couldn't use, and this is what I came up with. A remarkable gentleman told her to down the lights. I know, that's a little iffy. Annie dimly said nothing. So there you go. That's what I came up with for the sentence for these words. So yeah, were you able to come up with a sentence? Did you try this? I'm not sure if I'm going to do this again. It was actually kind of tricky, but also a little bit fun. Okay, I also need to give you the answer to the very last My March Mystery Madness Mindbender. The clue was, name the ex-criminal valet/chauffeur of Albert Campion. And the answer is Magersfontein Lug, otherwise known as Lugs, in the Margery Allingham series, Albert Campion series. This is quite an enjoyable series. Margery Allingham is a Golden Age writer, and her Albert Campion series are quite enjoyable. This is one of my favorites, actually, the Gyrth Chalice mystery. I haven't read all of them in the series yet, but of the ones that I've read, this is my favorite so far. So I hope you've enjoyed my March Mystery Madness Mindbenders. I had a lot of fun doing that. So this month for March Mystery Madness, which by the way was so much fun. I am so glad I got to be a part of it, and thank you to all the hosts here on BookTube. They did a great job. There were some great challenges and fun things to do in March for March Mystery Madness, and so thanks you guys very much. I read 23 books for March Mystery Madness, and of those I would have to say, I guess not surprising if you've been watching my videos, that my favorite was An Instance of the Finger Post by Ian Pears. I gave that one 5 stars. It's a historical mystery and I just loved it. I also gave a few books 4.5 stars. So my other favorites of the month was Death in 5 Boxes by Carter Dixon. A Bally Conspiracy Most Foul by Shamini Flint, An English Murder by Cyril Hare, and I'm just checking my notes here, The ABC Murders by Agatha Christie. So those were my favorites that I read this month. What were some of the favorites that you read this month for March Mystery Madness? I'd love to hear about that if you want to let me know down in the comment section below. And before I reveal to you my bingo card, I need to show you the last 3 books that I read this month. I read The Gripping Beast by Margot Wadley. This was to fill the prompt of a main character with 5 letters in their name, and the main character in this book is Isabel Garth, and Garth has 5 letters. This was a reread for me, but I hadn't read it for years, so I had basically completely forgotten everything about this book. I gave it 4 stars. I quite enjoyed it, and interestingly enough, I think this is the only book that this author wrote, which is interesting considering that this book is also the 2000 winner of the SMP Malice Domestic Best First Traditional Mystery. And it was pretty good. So it's set on the Orkney Islands, and Isabel Garth chooses to ignore the warning of Thora, Stromness's self-styled witch. Far north off the Scottish coast, the windswept Orkney Islands are fertile ground for superstition, with their mysterious rings, stone circles, and Viking graves. But her father's recent death in America only makes Isabel more determined to sketch the scenes that will illustrate his journal of a magical boyhood on Stromness. Soon, a series of frightening accidents forces Isabel to admit that someone does want her gone, perhaps forever. Hidden on the island is a fabulous Viking treasure, and too many people believe that Isabel knows where it is. When she stumbles upon a dead body, Isabel vows to find the killer, but the stark beauty that surrounds her hides the deadliest secret of all, and amid the craggy cliffs and crashing waves of Stromness, a killer is stalking his most innocent victim. So there were a couple things that I really liked about this book. First of all, Isabel is, I would call this probably a cozy. It says that it's a traditional mystery, and I would agree with that, but it's definitely got cozy elements. And so Isabel would therefore be the amateur sleuth, but the way she behaves in this book makes complete sense, and she doesn't do the annoying things that I often find amateur sleuths doing in other cozies. So for that reason, I really did like this book. She's there in order to honor her father and to see some of his childhood haunts. Her father has recently died, and so she goes to the Orkney Islands to visit the places where he played and where he grew up. And so she's a perfectly good reason for going there, and she's an artist, and so she is sketching his old home and places that were important to him. She has a journal of his that she has been reading. And so what she does in this book makes sense, and she doesn't get herself involved in areas of a police investigation that an amateur sleuth has no business being involved in. And so yeah, I quite liked it. It was good descriptions of the Orkney Islands. As far as I know, I've never been there, but I thought the descriptions were really good. And yeah, interesting characters, interesting stories. So if you can get your hands on The Gripping Beast by Margot Wadley, I can recommend it. I also read The Twelfth Night Murder by Anne Rutherford. This is also a reread for me, but it's been so many years that again, I completely forgot everything about this story. I gave this one 3 stars. It was fine. It was just not my favorite of what I've read this month. This was to fulfill the prompt of 5 people on the cover. So can you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This book is set in the Restoration era, which is a time period that I love, so it's a historical mystery, and it's set around the theater, which I thought would be interesting, and I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't give this book a higher rating, is even though the main character works in the theater, she runs the theater, and it's called The Twelfth Night Murder, it wasn't actually as much about the theater or the players as I would have liked, and so I think maybe that was the other reason. But anyway, here's the synopsis. When the body of a young boy, murdered, mutilated, and clothed in women's attire, is found under London Bridge, Constable Pepper believes him to be a member of the New Globe Players, one of the actors who specialize in women's parts. He is not, but Suzanne, summoned to make an identification, does recognize him from an encounter in the tavern the night before as the alluring doxy who caught the eye of more than a few of the patrons. Suzanne suspects that whoever hired him for the night reacted violently when his true sex was discovered. Moved by the lad's fate, Suzanne determines to find his killer, but first she must uncover the boy's identity, an investigation that leads her to one of England's wealthiest families and a powerful politician determined to keep the truth from being revealed at all costs. So there was some good period detail in here. There was interesting things about class and power. So yeah, it was fine. It was just not maybe not one of my favorites. And finally, to update you on my bingo card, I did it! I have a blackout on my bingo card, so that's super exciting. So yeah, that's my wrap up for March Mystery Madness. I had so much fun, and I am excited to do this again next year. So as far as videos that you can look forward to from me coming up, there are some tag videos coming up and some hauls, and of course more reading roundups, because this is a booktube channel and I'm going to talk about the books that I've read. So I hope you stick around for those videos, and thanks for joining me for March Mystery Madness. Bye! Hi, I just realized I forgot to include the third book that I read this past week, which was the first in the Cleo Coyle Coffee House mysteries, and I read it. The reason I forgot was because I didn't have the physical book with me, and so it was called, hang on What Grounds by Cleo Coyle. And sorry, this is the first time I've tried to do this holding the camera in front of me, and I am just really not very, adept at these things. Anyways, I read On What Grounds by Cleo Coyle, the first in the Coffee House mystery series, and it was good. I also gave it 3 stars. It's kind of one of those classic cozies, and I tend to give those about 3 stars. It was fine. It was good. I enjoyed all the coffee stuff. I'm a big fan of coffee, and so that part was very entertaining. So yeah, I also read On What Grounds by Cleo Coyle, and I'll continue with the series if I can find the books. Okay, that's it for me. Bye.